So now we're going to talk about compound interest. So in this video, we're just going to explain where the formulas come from and the terminology and stuff. And in the next video, we'll show you an investment situation. So you could have compound interest occurring like when you buy a car or you take out a loan or you invest money like in stocks or bonds or a money market or something like that. Okay. So you're going to have we're going to talk about investments. We want to talk about making money. So, so we're going to have some money and we're going to invest it in a money market or something. And they're going to give us a certain percentage rate. And that is based on a yearly percentage rate. And a lot of times I'll refer to it as the APR, the annual percentage rate. Okay. So that's a yearly rate. And they say, okay, we're going to give you 3% or something. I don't even think they give you that anymore on investments, but it depends on what you're investing in and stuff. Okay. So you give them your money and you say, here's my money. And they say, we'll take your money. And for after a year goes by, then they take 3% of your money and they add in um, whatever that is. And now you have more money. That's the idea of investments, right? To make more money. Okay. But they don't have to do it at the end of the year. Okay. They could do it other times. So they might say, well, we're going to take your money. And then after 1 month, we're going to figure out your interest. And then we'll add that in. We're going to add in, I guess that's 2 words, but they're going to add in what you earned. So, you're going to add in more money. Okay. And then the next month will go by and you'll make more. And they're going to add that in. And then we would say that would be at compounded monthly. And the nice thing about compounding it monthly as opposed to a year is your account's growing. So in the second month, you get the money that you originally invested plus, so you get your money plus what you earned in the first month. And then they're going to take that and figure out your interest for the second month. And then they're going to add that in and they do it for however long you leave it in. Okay, so then after 12 months, after a year, you'd have more money than if you had just compounded it at the end of the year. Okay, that's how compound interest works. You keep adding in the interest you're earning, and then your account grows and you make more money. Okay, so I think my money market compounds quarterly. Okay, so every 3 months they're going to give me some more money because they had my money, and they compound it quarterly. Okay. Anyway, this makes a formula, and we say a equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. So it all was sounding really good, and now we have this complicated formula. Okay, so we have to know what everything means. A represents the amount in the account. That's what's growing. So you say, I'm going to put $1,000 in the account. And you haven't had it in there any time at all. You just started with 1,000. Then that is what's in the account, $1,000. Then after a month, you earned some interest and it grew, and now you have $1,003 or something. I don't know. Okay. P is called the principal. That is the starting amount. That's how much you started with. Okay. So that's the $1,000 I was talking about. Then when you got to 1,003, see, now you have a new amount in your account, and then you go to the second month, and so on and so forth, or however they're compounding it. The one, and sometimes people have questions, what's that one in there? Represents the original amount. Plus, and then what are you going to make? Well, you're only going to make money based on the percentage rate. So R is your yearly percentage rate. They usually give it as a percent. You have to change it to a decimal percentage rate. And then why are we dividing it by n? Well, you have to know what n is. N is the number of times, number of times it's compounded in a year. Okay, so if they're going to do it monthly, that's 12 times, so n is 12. If they do it quarterly, that's 4 times a year, so n is 4. And I'll talk about what those terms mean. Okay. And then finally, t is the time in years. Now, you could have other compound formulas that don't necessarily do it by the year, but because we're doing a yearly percentage rate, and they would have to change everything. But anyway, so we're going to talk time in years here. Okay, so that's what everything means. Why do I have to take the rate and divide it by n? Well, it's a yearly percentage rate, so you're not getting the whole amount each month. You have to divide it by 12 if it's monthly, divide by 12, and that's the percentage you're earning in 1 month. Okay. Why do you have to multiply the n times t? Well, let's say you leave your money in for 5 years. So we're not raising it to 5, but rather how many times it's compounded, which if it's monthly, it's going to be 12 times 5, which is 60 times in the compounding if you're only leaving it in for 5 years. Okay, so that's why those things work that way. Okay, so here's some terminology. Semi-annually, then n is 2. That's twice a year. Quarterly, n is 4. Monthly, n is 12. And then daily, n would be, I think they usually use 365 for that. I think that's pretty standard. Okay. And you can say, what about leap year or whatever? Okay. Those are different ways that interest can be compounded like that. Okay, and that's a formula. But there's also, there's continuously compounded. Continuously compounded. Okay, so if it's continuously compounded, there's a different formula. And it's A equals the principal, and then we're going to have to use E because that's the idea of continuously compounding. It keeps going and going and going. That's where E comes in. And then you just take the rate times T. There's no N because it's not being compounded monthly or daily or whatever. Okay, and so this is the formula for continuously compounding, okay? R and T are both, by the way, in the exponent. So sometimes students will call it PERT because it looks like P-E-R-T, but RT is the exponent. Okay. When I was a kid, that was kind of a big deal. The banks were doing continuously compounding, and they'd show these commercials where it just showed like an odometer just growing, growing. Your money was just going to grow all the time. But I don't see that so much anymore. I'm not a big investor, but usually things are compounded quarterly, or you might find other things. I think I don't have a lot of investments, but I think mine are quarterly. And you could have different types of investments that way. There's really not a huge difference in the amount when it's compounded continuously. And I imagine they ran into some problems. People were like, hey, I want my money. And it was continuously being compounded. So, oh, I earned another like quarter of a cent because you walked over to get my money or something like that. I imagine they ran into some problems along those lines. I don't really know that. But, or maybe it just wasn't cost effective. But you'll see things like quarterly or monthly or something semi-annually. You might see investments that are compounded that way. Okay, we'll show you an example of an investment problem in the next video.